Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Agriculture Today. As we all know in Kansas agriculture, irrigation is a staple of production in many parts of the state. Our guest now is a noted authority on irrigation sustainability. That's been the thrust of his research out of Australia, and he is the 2018 Roscoe Ellis Jr. Lecturer in the Department of Agronomy here at K-State. And that lecture, by the way, to remind you, honors a long-time and accomplished soil scientist here at Kansas State, Roscoe Ellis. Mike's side now is Dr. Keith Bristow, and he is the Senior Principal Research Scientist at CSIRO, Townsville, Australia. Keith, welcome back to K-State. You're not a stranger. You've been here on the campus many times, you tell us.
I have visited a few times here, thank you, and really enjoyed my time that I've had here. I've worked specifically with Gerard Klutenberg in developing a thermal conductivity probe, which we then went on further and started measuring soil water with it and things like that, so had really fun times here.
What does CSIRO stand for?
The Commonwealth Scientific Industrial Research Organization. We all just call it CSIRO.
Good to have you back, and if you would share a bit more background on your research and your initiatives, particularly in northern Australia.
So I live in a city called Townsville in northern Australia, and it's in the wet, dry tropics zone. So we get most of our rain in 3 months of the year, January, February, March, and then the rest of the year is extremely dry. South of Townsville, we have a wonderful big floodplain on the Burdekin River system. It's about 133,000 square kilometers. I don't know what that is in miles, but 133,000 square kilometers.
Sizable.
It's big. It's big. There are 4 main rivers that feed into the Burdekin, and it runs out into the ocean south of Townsville. The floodplain that it goes through, we have 80,000 hectares of irrigated, largely sugarcane. We probably have about 5% of that irrigated area under drip irrigation, and that's normally on the horticultural crops. The rest of the 80,000 hectares is under sugarcane, and that's normally furrow irrigated systems. So it's been a very interesting journey working with the farmers down there. I really love the work we do down there. We've actually set up a informal group. So apart from doing formal projects and things like that, we have an informal group called the Burdekin Water Futures, where we've got leaders from a whole range of different organizations in the floodplain, so sugarcane millers, irrigator groups, state government departments, CSIRO, who I represent. And we meet regularly as a group and discuss how can we do things better. So some of the basic things we've tried to think about is if you're using mainly furrow irrigation, what can you do to improve the water use efficiency? So south of the river, we have a groundwater-driven irrigation scheme, and they're able to schedule really easily because they can say, okay, I need water on Tuesday on my farm, and I've got my bore, so I can put the water on. So in that area, we're really concerned about the water table level getting too low, because if they pull too much water, it gets too low, we get saltwater intrusion. If you get saltwater intrusion, because it's an unconfined aquifer, it's very difficult to push that salt water back out again. So we're trying to work to make sure that we set and meet water table targets. So in this area, you should not let your water table drop below, say, 7 meters. So by the time, if you're dropping to 5 meters, let's start changing our practice and making sure we're cutting back and not taking too much water out. If we get to 6 meters, we better be doing urgent things. If we get to 7 meters, we should be panicking. So it's those sustainability targets that we're trying to set. If I come north of the river, that part of the floodplain is largely clay soils. So it's a very different kind of irrigation. It's a surface water managed irrigation scheme. So in this side, part of the problem is irrigating to schedule. So, if a farmer says, I need this amount of water today, can the scheme get the water to that farm on that day? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people fall back into that trap of scheduling every 5 days or every 7 days.
whether they need it or not.
Correct, because that's when the water's running past their farm. We say in a lot of places that we're scheduling, but in fact we aren't, because we don't have the capability to get the water at the right place at the right time, which means that we've got to rethink how our distribution systems are working. And so locally for us, we know we're doing pretty well with the groundwater scheduling and very poorly with the surface water scheduling. So there's a lot of work now going on trying to, how do we rethink that and redistribute the water more effectively? And again, the good thing is through this Burdekin Water Futures group that we run, it's brought the different farming groups, the irrigators, the millers, the council and government departments into that conversation. And we have a very good relationship now with state government, a couple of departments, and really trying to think through how do we do this. We have done a relatively good job. The water boards that look after the groundwater system have done a relatively good job about keeping that water table up so that they're not getting the seawater intrusion. And with the drought that we've just been through, we've struggled more. So we lost a lot of water level in the aquifer. So we've got a bit of catching up to do there now. So it's very challenging. It's a challenging task that we have at hand. But it's been a lot of fun, and I think we've made a lot of progress. And so some of those concepts we've taken and we've pushed it up into, Northern Australia, far North Australia. We've pushed it into the Murray-Darling Basin system. And there are improvements, I believe, across the country happening. Maybe not enough, not quickly enough. But certainly good progress has been made.
Really at the core of this, Keith, all of it is the collaboration that you're seeing with public officials for sure, but most assuredly your agricultural producers out there who are apparently recognizing the issues at hand and are responding by working with each other and with those agencies that are overseeing water allocations in that region.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting because when I first moved to Australia, there seemed to be a lot of division between government and the farmers and that sort of stuff. And I think that's really improved over time. I mean, I've worked there a long time now, 30-odd years in that one catchment, so I know it very well. And we went through a period, and I guess it's a bit of an issue with Australia. A lot of our government sit in 5 big cities. We're in a regional town, so we're 1,600 kilometres away from Brisbane, which is the capital of Queensland, and most of our government and policy and what have you takes place in Brisbane. And personally, I've disliked sometimes when they make policy in Brisbane and then run it out into a place like the Lower Burdekin without coming and talking to the people. And I argue that policy should always only be developed in collaboration. It should be an iterative process. And in the last couple of years, that's improved a lot. So we now have people coming to talk to us. And I think we're getting a little bit closer to, let's do it iteratively. Tell us what you think. We can tell you what we know because we're on the landscape. And then let's keep chatting and agreeing on what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Well, as we talk here, it's apparent that some of the water issues in your home country are similar to those we see in Kansas, western Kansas, the Ogallala. But creative ideas and coordination, they seem to be the mainstays that have to happen to get to that sustainability point.
Absolutely. And, I keep an eye on the Ogallala and some of the water issues across America. I would be encouraging the Ogallala as well to think about the sustainability targets and, the water quantity, which is really the level. Have you got that under control? What do farmers need to do to adjust to go through dry periods and then wet periods? Are you prepared for the long dry periods? So I think, setting and meeting water table targets forces you to think about those things and try and look into the long-term future. I think in the past we've been very reactive, whereas I think we've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of measurement and predictive capability to look into the future so that we minimize potential problems. And, I'm optimistic we can turn things around.
Keith, we appreciate you greatly coming to K-State, sharing these thoughts, and they will be conveyed as well during your lecture later on. Appreciate your work in this area, which is of great relevance not only to folks in Australia, but even here in the United States. Good to have you back on K-State's campus.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here again.
He is, again, a senior principal research scientist with CSIRO in Townsville, Australia, and he is accomplished in the area of groundwater hydrology, irrigation systems, and is meeting the challenges in that area of northern Australia with ideas to make it a more sustainable irrigation environment for agriculture there. His name is Keith Bristow, and he is presenting the Roscoe Ellis Lecture in Soil Science at Kansas State University this week in the Department of Agronomy. We'll be back with more in a few moments. You're listening to Agriculture Today.
Agriculture and food systems are the main drivers of the Kansas economy, but must be improved in order to feed the world's growing population. How are we going to do so? Reduce food loss, find ways to preserve grasslands, and help families stretch their dollars. Global food systems is one of the 5 grand challenges K-State Research and Extension is addressing. To learn more, visit www.ksre.ksu.edu.
Welcome back. You're listening to Agriculture Today. K-State Research and Extension has just released a new publication for you crop producers to review and to pick up some ideas from on using satellite data. This is just out, and we're going to tell you what you will find in this particular publication with the help of Ignacio Ciampiti, crop production specialist, K-State Research and Extension. Well, Ignacio, we're well aware as producers that the data available via satellite has really accelerated in recent years, and it's out there for the using if one knows how to make the best of it.
Yeah, Eric, thanks again for the invitation.
Sure.
Specifically, our idea was just to make sure that we have some indication or knowledge of guiding farmers how to start using, interpreting, and analyzing data from satellite. And this is a farmer-oriented, it's still friendly for crop consultants. Mm-hmm. Satellite has been around since 1979 or probably even before. If you look at companies and service providers, you're still seeing that there is a big influx of data coming up. Farmers are starting to say, no, I'm getting now X number of images per year, and I'm just like, wow. And I think that the main question at the end of the day is like, okay, do we know the basics? Do we know how we're replying to use the image, the interpretation? And that was kind of the main goal in the publication, is to make sure that we establish the foundation of main concepts. What is the satellite data? What are the basically resolution of satellite? What are the different type of satellites? Mm-hmm. Because one of the challenges for us, even the years to come, is to keeping up with the changes, because every month, every 6 months, or every year, we are seeing more and new satellites updated or being available for us to start using on image analysis or in other things.
This could serve as something of a shopper's guide for knowing what satellite sources and data would best fit one's crop production management needs.
Exactly, and also trying to make sure that we don't get into the situation that knowing what are the possibilities of using satellite data, but also understanding that there are some limitations. It's good to realize that satellite is not coming to replace any agronomist. Mm-hmm. So agronomists can be happy about that. They still have job security there. Ground truthing, ground truthing meaning that going back to the field, checking your field, checking scouting, it doesn't change. What satellite does is helping farmers, helping companies to be more precise. Because in the past, when I'm trying to go out and start thinking about scouting thousands of acres, the challenge is, where do you start? You go through all the field, and now today we have so much, high, nice resolution that we can just identify specific problems in a field and just do more site-specific scouting. Go to a specific area of the field, look at that section, why is a low in yields, and then just go to another area and compare with an area that is showing you high yields. Mm-hmm. Limitations are multiple. I will just emphasize basically some of the applications of satellite. Satellite is becoming one of the basic tools, I would say, and is included on the toolbox of the site-specific management. So the site-specific management is farmers, consultants working on zones.
This is beyond scouting fields.
Exactly. Yeah. It's working on thinking about maybe if I have areas of the field that are yielding less or more, then I need to start thinking about differential input allocation, right? You name it, seeding rates, fertilization. Again, the challenge always is we need to have some real data from the field to try to compare and make sure that this technology works.
Ground truthing,
because having a low greenness, that doesn't mean that you need to fertilize your crop. And I want to express and be clear on this because we have some confusion around. So having low greenness index doesn't mean specifically that you should go and apply nitrogen.
But it tells you to take a look and see what's going on.
It just tells you to take a look to see what's going on. And in many situations, you might find that there is something else. That it might be a disease problem that is affecting the plant, affecting the canopy. It might be an insect problem. It might be things related to soil, pH, nutrient deficiency. It could be other nutrients. The satellite also allows us to do something that we didn't do in the past. I think that we have a situation right now that we can look more at in-season. If I have access to multiple pictures, satellite pictures over the growing season, then I will be able to really start looking at how my crop is changing over time. Not only that, sometimes we have discussions with farmers. How do I know if the area that the satellite shows as a low-yielding area was low-yielding in the last 5 years? Mm-hmm. So you could go back on time with satellite also and look at the same time, previous years, to see if that area of the field was always low-yielding or not.
You can have a running history of that particular zone.
Yeah, because then it tells to that farmer that there is a factor that is persistent and persistently blocking yields. So then the farmer identifies that there is a problem and they identifies that the problem is being repeated over time. So in that way, you will identify things that are changing over time versus things that are being persistent over time. The implications are multiple on this because when you're thinking about management, if I know that this factor, it might be pH or it might be another factor, always is limiting yields in that area. If the factor is always limiting and we cannot fix it, start allocating less resources in that area because your profit ratio there is not going up. And then if you put too much inputs and not getting profits, then you are wasting resources.
The publication also talks about one other function that satellite data could address, and actually forecasting crop yields as part of the information pool that we have here.
Yeah, and the forecasting is a very interesting fact. We started working and developing a forecast for corn last year at the state level. This year we will continue that tool, and hopefully we will start adding more data at the different level, district at least. The forecasting is very nice in the sense, we are always trying to predict what will happen 2 or 3 months before harvest, right, which is a challenge. But the beauty about the forecasting, I think that is, or at least what I do like coming from this tool, is before we have a reliable forecast tool, we also need to do what I call crop mapping, which means that before you can develop the forecasting tool, you need to know where are the corn acres located in the state. And many times that data is never available to farmers or to even public or private institutions because USDA published this data, but USDA usually published this data on February of the following year. And the challenge is if you want to do a real-time forecast, not knowing how many acres of that crop are available in the state, it basically will impact in the tool. If you are overestimating acres, then when you multiply with the production estimation, then your production or your yields will be overestimated. Right. And the same will be on the opposite side, if you are underestimating the number of acres. So one of the beauties about the tool is that we were able to even map where was the corn located across the state in near real time. And that is something that I think that many farmers, even industry, will start looking at basically how in a county or in a district, how the corn acres and the changes in corn acres, which basically give us some indication of changes on farmers and management, behavior, rotation, and also changes based on, most of the times, decisions based on price. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that these tools will start adding into Asian. And I think that one of the things that we are implementing right now for the first year, we'll be collaborating with agents across the state to start to see if we can develop some kind of a tool in collaboration with all the agents and regional agronomists of near real-time phenology. Phenology, when I'm discussing about phenology, I'm basically of the crop, I'm trying to identify if the crop is in 2 leaves, 4 leaves, 5 leaves, flowering. Why that information is relevant is because many of our practices are related to that. Every practice that we conduct, even our herbicide applications, are related to growth stage. So informing phenology and start being more precise on county-level phenology, it will be adding us a tool that will impress us, reporting to farmers almost near real time how the crop is looking. And for those farmers, even that they are usually farming multiple fields in multiple locations in multiple counties, the relevancy of knowing that information, it has an economic impact. I think that we are just grasping the surface on all this satellite, and our challenge for the years to come as an extension team is really to keep up with technology and make sure that we are relevant for our farmers and show them simple examples that they can just take the lead and then start using that technology.
Well, the opportunity is here to hop on board with the far-flung possibilities with satellite data as far as how it can help a producer manage their crops more efficiently and how they can get a hold of this full-blown publication. It's at the K-State Research and Extension bookstore online, right, Ignacio?
Yeah, exactly. We have at a K-State bookstore.ksre.ksu.edu. You go to /pubs, the publication that is called Satellite Data and Agronomic Decisions.
Just type in the title. Again, Satellite Data and Agronomic Decisions. Thanks, Ignacio, for coming over, as always, sharing your thoughts on this. He's Ignacio Ciampiti, crop production specialist with K-State Research and Extension. And we'll be back with more after this break. You're listening to Agriculture Today.
Have you ever thought about where your food comes from? If you're thinking the grocery store, think again. Facts show that the American farmer feeds more than 129 people.
They are continually increasing and improving their operations. A wide variety of crops and livestock are grown in Kansas as well as the United States, providing food to your dinner plate.
Next time you see a farmer or rancher, thank them. For more information, contact K-State Research and Extension.
This is Agriculture Today. Stop, look, and listen. This is our state, Kansas.
The photos are great, showing how small I am and how crazy this idea is.
That's Gus Vanderhoeven of Kansas State University with comment on life in rural Kansas.
If it is not the oldest tree on our hill, it surely is one of the oldest. It's a big tree, an Osage orange with 3 trunks. I've measured each of the 3. Their circumferences are 83, 70, 73 inches, respectively. The other day, I walked with Stelina, my daughter, to the tree to show her what I had done. With a sharp chainsaw, I had cut out some broken and cross branches which interfered with a grouping of redbuds growing nearby. The redbuds help screen the old stable and show their bloom in spring. The Osage orange tree partly shades the once used corral. Over the years, I've noticed that very slowly the 3 heavy trunks are leaning more and more. That is why I had come to do some pruning, so I could now mow underneath. As I worked underneath, I kept my eye on the leaning trunks, not wanting to become pinned down. I often walk down to the tree and study it. 2 of the 3 heavy trunks are quite straight and need a top split into a strong Y. That Y has given me an idea. To share the idea with the other kids, Talina took a few photos when I explained to her what I want to do. The photos are great, showing how small I am and how crazy this idea is. The idea is, and I have had it for several years now, that when this tree, the 3 heavy trunks spread out even more and fall down, to take 2 of them and build a rustic entrance gate to the farm. I know it might be a nuisance, as I cannot build the entrance so big and tall that a loaded semi can enter or leave. However, I've made a special opening for those occasions already. The entrance I'm thinking of would just be a regular pickup and horse trailer entrance. The 2 heavy trunks would become the 2 standing poles with the sturdy Y on top nicely aligned so that a big cross tie, also an Osage orange, could be laid across secured in the 2 Ys. I can see it all in my mind. Oh, it'll be quite a job. As my oldest son remarked to his sister, we will need a crane, as these trunks are heavy. I know they're heavy, but I don't think we need a crane. We have the tractor and a heavy trailer. The tractor has a bucket, and with some careful planning, I think we could do it. So far, none of the kids have said, Papa is crazy. And that, I think, is a good sign. But don't worry. As long as the trunks still stand, I will leave the tree alone. It can grow some more. And not only that, the returned vultures like to roost in the top. I have again seen them take off from there, lazily flapping their big wings and floating away. Maybe with a full stomach they may shift the balance of the leaning trunks, and the trunks will slowly tilt further down and come to rest on the ground. That would be the moment to go forward with the idea. There will be no hurry, as the Osage orange tree won't rot away. Can you imagine how long that entrance would stand if no one would tear it down? I've thought about the holes which need to be dug. 2 holes, wide and 3 feet deep. It's a job. The post-hole digger with the larger auger will be a good start, but it only will be a start. And we have done that before. I have a corner post I set years ago, which was or has a 3-foot diameter at the bottom in the hole, close to 3 feet deep. It's a good, very good corner post. I've not yet gone looking for a cross pole. I have a few good power poles, but it would be more appropriate if the cross pole was also a good Osage orange beam. I know we have a few candidates on the farm, and those 2 I'll leave alone for now, so they can grow some more. Looking at the tree here on the hill, I contemplate how old the tree is. The hill used to be a hay and grazing meadow when all this hill end was still grazed. In one corner at the end, near the old stone wall, stands some old gate post. That was just an ordinary wire gate between 2 pastures. My neighbor, now 94 years old, must have gone through there many a time. I think of him whenever I walk to that corner of the hill. Well, like I said, it's just an idea. What else do you do with such big trunks? Surely they're not easy to split for firewood. Besides that, I think they're kind of special, like the old Wodan oaks in the old country. Old oaks in the forest passed on from one generation to the other with stories told. Another heavy storm, an ice storm, might just do it. Slowly, the mighty trunks give in to gravity. I know I could help them, but that's not how I want to do it. Nature should play out its role. Only after they have fallen down will I step in. After all, the ponies used to stand in their shade here on the hill and rub their backs and withers against the trees. I've always called the farm Horseshoe Valley. If all this comes to pass, I'll have a horseshoe or two dangling from the crossbeam, slowly moving in the wind. I might even make a horseshoe chime. The Kansas wind will make it chime. It's just an idea.
Gus Vander Hoeven of Kansas State University with his weekly commentary on rural Kansas. That's our time for today. Thanks for tuning in. Eric Atkinson here for Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.